What is up, Knicks fans? Welcome back to yet another episode of Fireside Knicks with your hosts, Dylan and Davin. And we're going to talk about the Knicks' defensive problems of late. And I think they really became apparent last night against the Indiana Pacers when they got outscored in the fourth quarter 40-27 and allowed 8 three-pointers in the fourth quarter en route to losing by 11 points after the Knicks at one point were leading by 10 in the third quarter. So really just a disappointing loss, and they've lost now 3 of their last 4 games, and they're struggling a little bit. You know, it's still early in the season, obviously, but you don't want to see these early season struggles continue. You want to see them kind of snap out of this funk, and lately the defense has been, quite frankly, a major concern. So we're just going to talk about that stuff. So Davin, first off, tell me how you're doing, and secondly, what were some of the things you noticed last night against Indiana defensively that really were glaring? Because there's a lot that I could say, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
Yeah, doing great, Dylan, man. Thank you for asking as always. And to be quite honest with you, they just got gassed out, man. The Knicks, by the fourth quarter, were gassed. They were running a glorified 8-man rotation. When I say glorified, it's really a 6-man rotation if you look at these guys' minutes. And to do this, so early into the season is kind of where things are at right now for the New York Knicks. Okay, so the question being, are you going to keep running this type of rotation until Mitchell Robinson and Preston Chua come back? And at that point, you're sacrificing the durability of your current guys or your impact players you have now for the sake of waiting for these guys to join the rotation again. And that's, I'm not going to just say malpractice, but that is definitely a questionable decision by the coaching staff there. So those are decisions that we're dealing with right now, only 9 games into the season. And that's just not sustainable. I don't understand it. And to see the way they look so gassed in the fourth quarter. And the defense has not been the best. It's not been up tier, but these are, like I said, it's a new team. So things are getting found out on both sides of the ball. Like the Knicks are not scoring at a high rate right now. And scoring frequency, they're actually bottom 6. And if I name the teams that they're tied with, it's like you can tell the disconnect is there. But they're down there with the Raptors, the Wizards, the Blazers, the Rockets, the Spurs, and then it's the Knicks, bottom 6 in scoring frequency. They're not even converting on one end to the other. They're not translating. Nothing is really going together every game cohesively and consistently. So it's like dealing with this 9 games into the season. It's just, man, it's just wow. It's wow. It's very jarring, to be honest with you, and it's just not sustainable. And that's my biggest takeaway for the whole entire game yesterday, to see these guys go out for 40 in the fourth quarter. Halliburton, Mathurin, and Turner had a field day in the fourth quarter. I think they combined for like 30-plus points on like 80% from the field, and it was ridiculous, man. I could not believe what I was seeing. And to have, like you said, a 10-point lead in the third quarter and just kind of just lose all types of execution that you had throughout the game. Very underwhelming performance from the New York Knicks there on the road. And then they have to go on the road again and meet Joel Embiid's first game of the season, man. It's going to get interesting.
Yeah, and something you really alluded to was that fourth quarter, of course, last night. Benedict Mathurin, by the way, had 38 points on the night and 7 of 9 from 3. That is a career night for Benedict Mathurin. And this was a Pacers team, by the way, you mentioned, of course, that the Knicks were running a 6-man rotation, which is true. I mean, you can't run a rotation that small. It's not sustainable. The Pacers were missing a lot of players, too. Nesmith is out. Nembhard is out. Obi Toppin is out. A bunch of rotation guys were out. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers right here. And the only guys that logged in serious minutes off the bench for Indiana was T.J. McConnell, who played 15, Jarris Walker played 27 minutes, and Ben Shepherd played 22. Those were the only serious bench guys that played like actual minutes. The rest of the bench played very sporadically. And of course with the Knicks, it was even worse because McBride played 29 minutes, and then Jericho Sims played 9, and Tyler Kolek played barely even 2 minutes. So you essentially ran 6 guys versus 8. And that's, obviously very thin for both teams, but as you said, the Knicks just looked gassed in that fourth quarter. I mean, they got demolished, quite frankly, in that fourth quarter. They entered the fourth quarter up by 2. And at one point in the game, they were up by 10 in the third quarter and had a 5-point lead in the fourth quarter, too, at one point. They just got obliterated. I mean, 40-27 in the fourth quarter. Field, as you said, Halliburton, Mathurin, and Turner just having a field day. Really just very bad defensive lapses from the Knicks in that fourth quarter, giving these shooters too much room. The Pacers are a team that plays fast. They play fast and they will light you up from 3. That is exactly what they did in the fourth quarter. They absolutely killed them with that. I mean, the poor transition defense by the Knicks too, leaving shooters wide open, giving them too much room off the pick and pop and the pick and roll. It was just bad. I mean, it looked like the Pacers couldn't miss. It looked like there was, that they were shooting on a bigger size rim, because they just couldn't miss in that fourth quarter. I mean, on the night, the Pacers shot 45% from 3 and hit 21 on the night. That is now the 4th game this season that the Knicks have allowed their opponents to shoot at least 15 threes in a game, like make them, I mean. And that's also now the fifth time as well, I believe, that their opponents have shot above 50% from the floor. So they're getting gashed defensively. And it's a concern, especially considering that you acquired Mikal Bridges in the offseason to pair him with OG Anunoby to prevent this from happening, right? To prevent teams from just lighting you up from three, lighting you up from all over the floor. And we're going to talk about Mikal Bridges too, because he's been a little underwhelming, and he was, quite frankly, terrible last night against Indiana. 8 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, horrible shooting in 41 minutes of action. And of course, the defensive concerns, as I just said, allowing 132 points to a shorthanded Pacers team. Yes, they had their stars playing, but they were missing 2 starters and their main bench player. So that's bad. That's really bad. And considering what we've been seeing so far from this team, I am concerned, because the offense and the defense are not clicking at the same time. The Knicks have the second highest offensive rating in the league. That's very good, but they have the 23rd highest or the 7th lowest defensive rating. And you're not going to win games if you don't have both sides of the ball clicking, right? We see last year that this team was good on both sides of the ball, and that's how they ended up winning 50 games, being second in the Eastern Conference, and being 1 game shy of the Eastern Conference Finals despite missing so many players, right? Now, right now, what we're seeing, though, we're seeing great offense. The guys are scoring. I mean, OG had 25 last night. Jalen Brunson finally had a great game, 33 and 10.
Yeah.
Karl-Anthony Towns had another 30-point game. Josh Hart even added 16 himself. But the defense just wasn't there. Again, it wasn't there. And something I've really noticed too, it really falls apart in the fourth quarter. It always seems to fall apart then, and I think it really kind of goes into what you said about the fatigue. You're running essentially a 6 to 7 man rotation every night. Granted, you are missing a bunch of key players off the bench. Cameron Payne has missed 4 games now. Precious Achiuwa has been out since the start of the season. Same thing with Mitchell Robinson. We don't know when any of those guys will be back, and we know just one of those guys coming back isn't going to magically fix the bench and fix the depth. You need them all back, right? But you can't also play your starters this many minutes this early in the season. It's too early for that. And looking ahead at their schedule too, they have 2 back-to-backs this week. 2. They got 5 games the next week. So it's really going to be interesting to see what they're going to do, because I don't think you can run this, a rotation of essentially 6 players when you have a schedule like that coming up. Yes, the opponents are a lot easier. You have Philadelphia, who's shorthanded, and then you have the Bulls, and then Brooklyn twice, and then Washington. That's a light schedule. That is a very light schedule, actually. But it's also got 2 back-to-backs in there. So it's going to be tough. It is going to be tough. So I just need to see better defense really overall from this team. It's kind of disappointing when you have OG and Mikal out there and you're getting lit up from the 3. It's disappointing, and it's becoming a concerning trend of late
Yeah,
too.
absolutely.
Not even just last night against Indiana, but every other team that we're playing against. It's a concerning and alarming trend, and I just need it to change. That's all I really got to say about that, though. I want to get your next thoughts on that.
No, you're absolutely right, man. Because to be quite honest, Benedict Mathurin, he made 7 threes. The Knicks' whole entire team made 7 threes. These guys were not were not locked in, and that's the thing: the lack of consistency from game to game. Like one game, you'll see them take 43s. Last night, they couldn't even take 33s. They didn't even convert. I don't think, not even 33s. They only made 7 as a team, and that's ridiculous to see the way that
And
Mathurin
only
just had
one
his
in the
way out
second
there.
half, too.
You know what I mean? He's just having his way out there. And another thing about the defense is Anunoby has 25. So if Anunoby's exerting himself on the offensive end, his defense is just, you're going to be a little bit behind on that. Just is what it is. So if that's the case, Mikal Bridges picking up that slack, or, shot distribution being a little better. That's another thing with chemistry there. Because that's how you see it's not translating on both ends. For example, we're going to talk about the threes they're giving up. The shot distribution is so bewildered, they don't know what they're doing on that side, that on the other side, now you have your opponents. The Knicks are ranked 24th in contested twos. That's bottom 10. 29th in contested threes. Like you said, they've given up X amount of threes every single game. 29th in contested threes. They're not touching. These guys are getting open shots on the New York Knicks right now. They're not out there contesting open jumpers. So it's like, to see this happening right now, you can tell these guys are really trying to figure it out in this first 10 games, really trying to figure out the cohesiveness and really how to get this unit to all gel and work together. And I think that just plays such a huge part, because if you have OG Anunoby going to get you 25, he's had 3 games of 20 more over the last 10 days. That's phenomenal. Granted, to OG, he knew when he came to New York he wanted a large role offensively. That's all right. he's a two-way menace for a reason, though. So if you're going to have this guy taking shots and he's going to be a little bit slower getting back in transition because he's still on his release point and this other guy's running back, like things like that, little small nuances like that, things have to be made up for. There has to be better communication, and that's going to gain the chemistry between each other because Mikal Bridges and OG both can't go get you 25 tonight. That just can't be the case. I would be more comfortable personally if Mikal Bridges doing the scoring, but at the same time, and Anunoby's such an asset on the defensive end, I think that gives us more. And those are little things like, okay, maybe Mikel's having an off night. OG picks up slack offensively, but that shot distribution just goes to Brunson and Towns, in my opinion. So it's just so much of balancing going on, so many adjustments that need to be made so soon. And the problem with me is getting to that next gear after seeing them get walloped by these teams in the fourth quarter. It's like, all right, by the time we get everyone healthy and everyone's back again, these guys are going to be gassed. It's going to be January. These teams are going to be ready for the gearing up for the playoffs. And when teams haven't even had to even have that, situation where they're, stretching their rotation thin, they don't have to do that until March. And the Knicks are doing that right now in November. And it's like, man, this does not spell success. That's what I'm saying. So the long-term storytelling of it, yeah, we're 10 games in, but right now there are teams that are on a gear that the Knicks have yet to obtain or acquire themselves to, and the Knicks have to still gain that while getting themselves back healthy. And we saw this. We really predicted this before the season started. We're like, if these guys don't sign another center after Hartenstein, we're going to have a situation where you're going to be having guys stretching themselves thinner than they really have to, and that's going to be giving us, worse defense because we lost Dante and Randall. So defense is going to give up worse anyways. We don't have the tenacity. There's not the mentality there to just be really integral in the defensive end. Yeah, you have two call them wing stop, but at the same time, you guys, we're giving up points in the paint at an insane rate right now. We're like bottom 5 in that as well. So it's like everywhere you look right now, and I think that's where it all starts: shot distribution, getting great chemistry up, because everything translates to the defensive end. Things are going to work better if you guys are better flowing on offense. You want to be more compelled to be locked in on defensive end, and that's just the way. No, that's basketball, guys. So it's just very interesting to see it happen. Running a 6-man rotation right now. We need Dottie out there. We need Dottie and Hook Porter. We need Kolek minutes. We need those minutes as soon as possible. And I think Tom Thibodeau, let's say something goes wrong and everything doesn't go too well, knock on wood right now, in Philadelphia, then I think there'll be a situation where some adjustments will need to be made. Because after that, 10 games in, being below 500 with this roster, 10 games in, these are professional basketball players. I believe that things could be adjusted, accordingly. Just got to be the right person to do it. And I don't know who that's going to be, but we're going to find out.
Yeah, and I think really one of the biggest issues with the defense overall has been communication, as you said before. I mean, I was going through, of course I watched the game live, but I went through the film again, going through the tape, and there's just too many times where, teams are running these screen and rolls or screen and pops, and they're like lost on defense. They're like, oh, am I supposed to pick that up? Are you supposed to stay with him? What do I do? And then it ends up leaving to a wide open shooter, right? And as you said, they're 29th in contested threes, so they're not even contesting threes at all. They're just leaving them wide open. And like it's different if you're giving up threes and they're all contested. You're putting up a fight on it, or you're at least making it difficult for them. You're making them use up the shot clock. They're not doing that. They're just giving them wide open threes. They're basically gifting them. These are NBA players. They're gonna hit open threes. It's okay. Like they're gonna hit open threes. So I don't understand why we're kind of just like doing the whole like let's pray they miss type stuff. No, you have to give them a fight. You have two guys that are supposed to be these lockdown perimeter defenders in Bridges and OG. I don't know why we're not maximizing that. I feel like at times too we're seeing too much of Towns at the front end, or or Hart at the perimeter instead of those guys. And I understand teams are going to game plan that and try to get those guys away from the perimeter. I understand that, but I feel like we're not maximizing them enough. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's just a scheme problem. I don't know if other adjustments need to be made. Something's got to change. Something. We're only 9 games in. It's early. I'm not worried about this team at all. Quite frankly, they've had a very tough draw to start the year. They've played almost basically every team that's a playoff team last year, with the exception of like the Pistons and the Rockets. So they've had a tough schedule. They're 4-5. I mean, that's not good, but considering it's a brand new team, I'm not worried. I would be more worried if they were like in the Bucks situation, because that's a concerning situation. What's going on with the Knicks is it's alarming, but it's something that can be fixed, and it's something I'm confident will be fixed too, because we've seen this a lot with Knicks teams in the past, where they start the season off slow, and then they really kick into high gear once they figure things out. But they just need to get going on both ends of the floor. The offense has been fine. I mean, last night, yes, they shot 7 of 25 from 3. That's not good, but they shot 55% from the floor. So I mean, they're still making shots. They're still scoring at a high level. They're still doing what they're supposed to do offensively. Defensively, though, it's just been completely nothing lately. I mean, we've seen a couple games this year where, they've in 3 of their 4 wins actually, they've held their opponent to under 100 points. So those games right there, they've been good defensively. Yes, maybe the numbers on the stat sheet will tell you that this team shot pretty well, but I mean, you held them to under 100 points. That means you did your job. You did your job on the defensive end, right? But these past few games, it's been a completely different story. They've letting teams kill them in the fourth quarter. They're getting obliterated. The only game where it seemed like they really were in sync all the way through was that Bucks game the past couple days. That game, they were good on both ends of the floor. You didn't allow Giannis or Dame to take over the game. And you were good offensively. You put up 116 points. Last night, you put up 121 points. That's good offensively. You gave up 132 and 40 in the fourth quarter. 40. I mean, that's just wow. That's like the Pacers shooting was literally like Boston Celtics opening night level of shooting. Yes, teams are going to have hot shooting nights. It happens. You didn't even give them a fight, though. You let these guys take these open threes. You should have expected to get killed when you're doing that. And Tom Thibodeau had a pretty good quote after the post game, or after the game, I should say. And he said that, if you're only relying on your offense, you're not going to be a good team. You're not. You are not going to be a good team if you're doing that. You have to, be good on both ends of the floor. The Knicks were a top 10 team in both offense and defense last year, and that's why they were so successful. This year, they're second in offense, 23rd in defense, and that is why we are sitting here right now talking about why they are struggling so much and why they're 4-5, why they're, it's a tight Eastern Conference, I get it. It's been very weirdly competitive, but also every team kind of is under 500 except for Boston and Cleveland, so it's a weird start to the year for the East, but regardless, these are good teams. The Knicks are going to end up probably seeing some of these teams they've played already in the postseason if it gets to that point. So, you got to be able to just figure things out. It's still early, but you also don't want to just drop these games that may seem, inconsequential. You got to be able to really just get it going. That's really all I got to see. Really, all I got to say about it. I don't have much else to say. I just need a better defensive effort against Philadelphia. And it's going to be tough. Paul George and Joel Embiid are going to be playing. Tyrese Maxey is obviously out, so the Knicks will have the upper hand in that regard because the Philadelphia 76ers are going to be very shorthanded. But you can't just, let that kind of be like, oh, well, we got this then because they don't have their second or third best player. No, you have to really just go all in. We've seen this team look very good some games, and we've seen this team look very bad some games like we did last night. I just need a better effort against Philadelphia, and then get to that little easier part of the schedule and handle business. Handle business. Get out of that. Head towards Thanksgiving with a nice solid record above 500, and get going from there. That's really all I gotta say, though. I want to get your final thoughts on this recent defensive situation. If you think they need to make any adjustments before we wrap this episode up.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, just as far as adjustments going, just need them bench. Need more pieces on the bench to come off, bigger than a 6-man rotation to keep these guys' legs ready and going well. Like we were saying, Tibbs said it's not going to be all offense, and that's absolutely true. I think it was giving away a little bit too much in that Pacers game. Like I read this list of bottom 6 in scoring frequency, and the Knicks are in the group of guys that weren't in the playoffs or in the lottery. Rockets, Blazers, Wizards, Raptors. These guys aren't teams that the Knicks should even be in the same conversation as. But here we are. Bottom 6 in scoring frequency in the whole entire league. And you have this roster of talent. And I think this is something these guys are becoming more aware of. So the shot frequency and shot distribution are something they really want to be keen on at the same time. You can't be giving up, easy lanes, easy buckets, giving up open threes all day, every day. It's just getting crazy. These are NBA players. And the Knicks currently do not strike fear in anyone. So a statement game in Philadelphia would be something that would be, keeping the Knicks on the radar. Because right now, no one's afraid to see the Knicks on their calendar. It's just not what it is because they see how they're playing out there. You wanted to go back and transition to get easy buckets. You're waiting on that. You're really not really selling out like you should be on defense, and it's showing. It's showing. So when the cracks are showing this early, things like that, you don't want to make anything become you do it so frequently, it becomes a habit. Pardon my. But yeah, it'll become a habit for the Knicks if they start falling into these bad ways too soon, too early here. We don't want that to be a problem. Muscle memory, we want the good kind of muscle memory. But that's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, and I think the transition defense is really the start of it. It's something that they've been struggling with since game 1 of the season, and it's something that I feel like it's going to be kind of a struggle throughout most of the year, but I think it's something that can be fixed a little bit. You just got to get back on defense. You got to, be prepared for these teams. Transition defense has been something that the Knicks have struggled with for years now, so it'd be foolish of me to think that it was going to suddenly change when you added Karl-Anthony Towns, who is not exactly a defensive big, he's an offensive big, so it would be foolish of me to think that it was going to change like that. But regardless, I just need to see better effort in transition because that's what's leading to these open shots, and that's why they're getting gassed. You know, they're ended up getting caught off guard and having to exert more, and that's why you get tired, and that's why you ended up playing these teams that are playing so fast, and it's killing them. It's killing them, and I just need to see better effort all around. The offense has been great. The defense needs to get going. That's really all I got to say, though, so I do think this is a good place to wrap the episode up. We really hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let us know what you think about the Knicks' recent struggles and their defensive miscues in the comments section below, because we would love to hear about it and talk with you guys about that. You can follow all of our social media platforms. We are on TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, of course, this YouTube page that you are watching the video on. You can follow our personal Twitter accounts. They are above our heads. And we will see you guys in the next episode of Fireside Knicks. Peace out.